we are targeting the hips and the glutes today. So we do these poses a lot, but these targeted deep stretches or these sessions are a bit less flowy and a bit less about the grounding and the breathing. It's more about actually focusing on the muscles that we're trying to lengthen or stretch out. So today it's all around the hips and the glutes. And the juicy muscles that we have there particularly are the piriformis, which is the one that's sort of deep in the glute that we feel when we take that figure of 4 type stretch. The hip flexors, which is the iliopsoas muscle, which attaches low spine down to the top of the leg, top of the femur. That gets very tight through, well, sometimes through exercise, but also through sitting and being quite still and seated through the day. And our IT band, so that runs down the outer part of the leg and can get quite tight as well. So I know the hamstrings are in there too, but we're not really specifically looking at those today. We're sort of looking at the hip flexor, the piriformis, the glutes, and the IT band. So if you have a strap or blocks, you may find it useful. We can manage without, so don't panic if you haven't. I'm using a blanket just to pad the knees a little bit as well, because we will be on them a little bit. Okay, if you're using the playlist or your own music, you can pop that on now. We're taking a really nice, deep, wide child's pose to start. So rather than this being a grounding, settling pose, we want to feel this in the hips, really into the groin. So take the knees as wide as you feel comfortable. The big toes might actually come apart here. You'll have to feel into it. Drop yourself in. And just take a moment to wiggle and move into that shape. Now, if it feels too intense, you can keep the body a little bit lifted. You can bend the arms and rest the forehead on the hands. Or you can extend the arms in front, but the awareness and the focus is into the hips. And you might feel this as more of a sense of compression into the hips. You may feel it as a sense of opening and stretch into the front of the hips and into the groin. You may well feel it more into the low back. So wherever you have landed, just bring a sense of weight into the body. And breathe into whatever sensations you are experiencing. And if that sensation starts to build in the hips, as much as you can, just breathe into it. Soften where you can. We have a few more moments here, so if you want to make any movements or maybe widen the feet a little so you can drop a bit deeper, you can take that. Be aware of the breath passing in and out of the body. Feel a sense of the belly expanding as you breathe in. And take 3 more breaths here. If you feel that you are tensing or tightening anywhere in the body, let it go as you exhale. Okay, and then if you're really deep in this child's pose, move nice and slowly as you come out of it. So lifting back up onto the hands, coming towards the knees and easing the knees back in under the body. It can be quite an intense hip opener to start. Now from there, we are coming down onto our backs. So make your way there. If you have a strap, just have it to hand. We'll use it in a moment. Okay. And when you land on your mat, just draw the knees in, give them a squeeze. And take a little bit of movement into the hips. So one hand on each knee, draw them into the body, and then separate the knees, open them wide and draw a big circle back together. So you'll notice the parts that you've already opened into with that child's pose. Taking that full rotation round, we can just ease everything out. You can take those circles in both directions. Okay, now we're coming towards what we know as a twist normally, but we're trying not to make it a twist today. So start with the right knee in towards the body. You can clasp around the shin or the knee, lengthen the left leg out. And just pause here, chance to draw that right knee up towards the right shoulder. Feel into the compression in that hip. And also just let the left leg be really heavy. We're just opening through the front of the hip flexor there. Now, when you take this into a twist, what we're actually trying to do is open through the right hip. So you want to twist as little as possible. So start to draw the left knee across the body. Notice how the right hip wants to lift. So to keep your right hand on the waist and encourage the body to stay where it is. So you'll end up with a floating right knee. You can hold on to it or you can just let the left hand drop down. So to begin with, this feels a little bit strange, like we're not really doing very much. It's the weight of the right leg that's opening through these muscles in the right hip. So you imagine muscles that are connected to the very base of the spine, to the sacrum, coming round, attaching through the hip or to the top of the leg. We're just wanting to open those muscles. So as you breathe out, keep bringing a little bit of extra weight into the right leg without twisting too much through the spine. And it may be that eventually you suddenly notice that the big toe is touched down, or it might stay as a hover. Either is fine. Be aware of any sensations and where you feel them around this hip. You may feel it more in different parts. All right, and then roll yourself back nice and slowly, particularly if that leg has been hovering all the time. All right, from there, reclined pigeon. We take it often. Cross that right knee over the right ankle over the left knee. Your right hand is going to stay here on the knee, pressing it away. Start to pick up the left foot. You've got a choice of what you do with this left hand. You can just hug the left thigh, or you can find the left kneecap and draw it in. So anything that's pulling the leg towards you with the left hand and pressing the knee away with the right hand. So this should be getting deeper into the right hip. Keep the shoulders soft. We are having to be active with the arms here, which makes it difficult to fully let go and soften. But do what you can with the breath. Few more breaths, really noticing what you can create in ways of expansion into the hip as you breathe in. Lovely, one more breath. And then from there, drop the foot back down. If you have a strap to hand, you're using it here to loop the right foot. If you don't, you're just going to use the hands to support the leg, which you can do just as well. So right leg is up towards the sky and the left leg is as straight and as dropped down as you can make it. So we start with a little bit with the hamstrings. But what we want to do here is find that outer leg stretch. So the hip is staying glued down and the right leg is just dropping across the body. So if you've got a strap, this makes it nice and easy. If you haven't, just support the leg, keep drawing it in towards you and take it across the body. You'll feel this sensation up the outer part of the leg. So let the right hip lift. It's all about finding length from hip to the outer edge of the right foot. And then you can ease it back. Remove the strap if you had it. And we move all of our awareness to the other side, onto the left side. So start by hugging the left knee in, send the right leg long. Few little breaths and movements into the left hip. Draw it up towards the left shoulder. And then our twist that isn't really a twist to open into the left hip. So start to guide the knee across the body. Use the hand on the left waist to make sure that you don't twist too far, almost like you're pulling the knee in one direction and the body back in the other direction. Find where you can pause, maybe release the right knee or keep hold of it for a little bit of extra weight. Notice what you feel in the left hip. Can you breathe into it? Keep releasing any tightness through those muscles, like you're drawing muscles away from their attachment points into the spine, into the hip, into the top of the leg. And then from there, we can roll back really nice and slowly. As you come back, bend the right leg in, cross your left ankle over. Left hand here is pressing the knee away. As you pick up the right leg, find somewhere that you can hold knee or thigh and draw that leg a little bit closer. So the arms are working in opposite directions, push and pull. And it's sort of this technique of trying to soften into the hip to then find a little bit more sensation and stretch. When we keep it tense, we protect ourselves. So try and let go where you can and then find a little bit more either movement into the hip or draw the right knee closer. Final couple of breaths. And then we can let go of the right knee or thigh, drop it down. Again, if you're using your strap, take it here around the left foot. If you're not, just use the arms and hands to support that left leg. So left foot up towards the sky, extend through the heels, slide the right foot away. And this time the left hip is staying down on the floor. So glue it down or hook it with the left hand and then just drop the left leg across the body. Doesn't have to be far. Again, without even doing anything, you can almost add to that stretch and lengthening by imagining that the leg is dropping in two different directions. You're doing nothing to prevent it. Lovely. Ease that leg back up. Release the strap if you had it. From there, just hug the knees in. We are rock and rolling our way through the spine, all the way up over your legs. Find a downward dog just for a couple of breaths. Pedal out the legs, lengthen the hamstrings. Notice how the hips are feeling. Okay, and then just drop the knees down. Now we're coming into a kneeling series. So if you want a little bit of padding under the supporting knee, please take it. We're stepping the right foot forward. Your choice here. You can bring hands to the thigh. So you're just resting here. We're working into the left hip flexor. So tailbone is down and we're dropping forward, finding that length in the front of the left hip. If you like to use your blocks, they're quite good here because you can stay nice and upright, but you've got some balance. So if you have blocks, feel free to use them, or a coffee table or anything that's to hand. If you're not using your blocks, just rest on your thigh. So if you find you've got a little bit of movement here, almost like a little pulse in and out, that's okay. We're balancing, keeping the tailbone down with dropping into the hips. So I often find there's a little bit of movement forward and back. So come out of it a little way. As you come out of it, really tuck the tailbone under, like you're aiming the tailbone to touch the back of your left thigh bone. Feel what that does to the left hip flexor. Keep that awareness, keep that tucking of the tailbone, engaging the left glute as you drop back into your lunge. You might not go as far. Big stretch for any tight hip flexors in this left leg. So if you're feeling it, that's where you're tight. A few more breaths. And then from there, we're coming down into a lizard lunge. So drop the hands down, bring them inside your right foot, heel toe a little bit wider. You might want to inch the right foot slightly further forward. And just take a little bit of movement here. We're still stretching the left hip flexor, but we've dropped the body forward, so that's less intense now. We've got a bit more pressure into the right hip. Got a few breaths. If you want to come lower, drop onto forearms, you can do, or take the knee a little bit wider. Really just move into whatever your body feels that it needs here. Come back up onto the hands if you went lower. Nice and slowly heel toe that right foot back towards center. You're picking up the back knee. Now this might take a few little hops because the legs are quite stretched and open, but come forward into a forward fold, knees as bent as they need to be. And then halfway lift as you breathe in. Breathing out, hands find the floor. We step the right foot back. Reposition on your padding if you're using it, and find your lunge on the other side. So once you're there, lift the body up. Nice upright body, long tailbone, draw in on the low belly, and find your lunge. You can always use your blocks. So just a few easy breaths here to begin with, maybe a little bit of movement in and out of that lunge. And then you can ease your way out of it a little way. Tuck that tailbone down. We're engaging through the right glute this time, like we're trying to angle it to hit the back of the right thigh. That builds sensation as it is in that right hip. Without losing it, drop back into your lunge. And try and keep those two opposing forces. So we are trying to bring the body weight forward, but always with that engagement through the body. So this is the muscle that has to open. You can see how when we sit a lot, this is the muscle that shortens, because obviously when we're in this position and flexing through the leg, This muscle's much shorter. It switches off entirely. So these hip flexor stretches are so good to do. And they do relate to low back pain as well. So if you get twingy in the low back, often it can be these muscles that are contributing to it. All right, from there we find our lizard lunge. So nice and slowly drop the body forward, heel toe your left foot a little bit wider. Sink into it, bringing a bit more compression into the left hip. If you want to drop to forearms, you can. Couple more breaths. And then lifting back up onto the hands if you were lower. Then heel toe your foot back to center. Pick up your back knee. You can step it forward, take a few little hops, whatever you need to do to get through to your forward fold. That's it, just sway it out when you get there. And then unravel yourself up to standing. Okay, we're going to take an IT band stretch standing here. So bring your right foot in front, right leg in front of the left. So it's the right side that we're going to be opening. Sorry, your left side we're going to be opening. Right hand to the hip. Bring the left arm up and over and just bend a little bit into your front leg. So the front leg is just there for support, really. Press into your left foot and just stick the hip out to the left-hand side. That's it. So creating space through the whole left-hand side of the body, but anything that's tight through this hip section, we can really open through. That's it. Come nice and slowly back to center. Swap it over. So left foot in front for support. Press into your right foot. Reach the right arm up and over. Bend into your left leg. So it's almost like the left leg isn't doing too much. You can almost pick the heel up off the floor. And then push underneath with the left hand and open through the right hip. Notice if it feels any different to the other side. So on this side, I don't feel it as much. My right hip, which obviously has mirroring you, my right hip is much tighter. Lovely. Come all the way back up. From there, you can stay long on your mat. It doesn't matter which way you're facing, it's fine. Take a nice wide stance. We're just going to forward fold for the hamstrings. So toes turn in front of the heels, hands on the hips. Breathe in, lift the chest. As you breathe out, hinge yourself forward. Sort of pause at that halfway mark. Feel almost like you're tipping your pelvis forward, like you're pouring water out, finding that tip of the body. And then when you're ready, you can drop all the way down to the floor. Let the head hang down. Keep the weight into the balls of the feet. Spiral your inner thighs back. All right, from there, come up halfway. Walk yourself back round to the top of your mat. Doesn't matter which leg is in front as you get there. We're stepping back to a downward dog. You can pedal the legs out. All right, moving into a full pigeon pose. So right knee is coming forward towards the right wrist. If you're taking full pigeon, that's where the legs stay. You're inching the left knee back. You're finding this sort of half split position. The more open your hips are, the more you may be able to open that front leg out. But if it's uncomfortable in the knee, keep it tucked in. If that's uncomfortable for you, you take deer pose, which is where we stagger the hips. So one coming straight up, shin to the top of your mat, shin to the side of your mat, and then you're leaning forward there. So that's your alternative, is your deer pose. As you find pigeon, your choice here really, you can stay upright, use the arms to support you, a little bit more body weight to sink down through the center, or you can drop the body forward, let the head hang or support it on the hands. If you stay more upright, you'll get more of a left hip flexor stretch. If you drop forward, you're going to have more weight and compression over the right leg. So again, this is getting deep into our piriformis, into the glutes. And if it feels okay in your knee and you're not really restricted in movement, a little rock forward and back, almost rolling around on the hips, can just explore any areas of tightness that you might not be finding just by staying static. Drop as much weight into your pose as you can. So whether that's a sinking of the upper body, dropping of chest or belly towards the floor. Maybe just a sense of letting go into the hips. Noticing what you find and feel here, maybe senses of slight pins and needles or tingling in parts of the body. Most sensations are okay as long as it's not real discomfort or you're going completely numb in a body part, in which case come out of it. Okay, now from there, lift up if you were low in your pigeon. Spin the back leg round, so we come to a seat. We're swapping over, so left foot is going underneath and right leg is coming over the top. So if I mirror you at the front, your right leg will be over the top. Now you can choose to take shoelace legs, which for lots of us is quite nice and opening for the hips, and we're just going to lean forward into this, root down into both hips and lean forward. If you find that that's not creating much sensation in the hips, you're welcome to open out into a fire log or some sort of equivalent and drop your weight forward. The tighter that your ankles are stacked over your knees, the more you're going to feel in your fire log. So it's your choice, fire log or shoelace legs with a little lean forward. I think for this early in the morning, shoelace is fine for me. And if there's lots going on, lots of sensation, it's just a case of trying to not hold and grip onto it. So when things are a little bit uncomfortable, we tense even more. We try and hold back from the pose, grit our teeth and wait for it to finish. Whereas if we can let ourselves just be here, use the breath, really use the exhale. You might be finding a little bit more ease as the body gets used to the pose, in which case stay with it. If your body's still resisting, just know that it's a few more breaths. All right, lift yourself up if you are leaning forward. That top leg is going to spin round, come all the way back. So you're either stopping at this halfway point for your deer pose, or you're taking it all the way back to find a pigeon pose. And just a little adjustment of the legs, Feel free to prop under the left hip if you need. And again, you can stay upright, a bit more weight into the body, a bit more opening through this hip flexor, or you can let that go, drop forward and focus on weight and compression into the left hip. It's all that, all the energy that's going on in the sort of left hip crease. You can actually find that you're tensing into that. So soften the tissues that are compressing in the left hip. A few more breaths here. And then lifting up out of your pigeon if you are lying forward. Moving nice and slowly, that right leg is going to spin back round to the front. This time our right leg is underneath, so we just need to switch over. Our left leg is over the top. So either in your shoelace legs, or you can take that fire log crossing of ankles over knees. If this is tight enough, just stay upright, or you can drop the body weight forward. I think hips are so interesting because everyone can appreciate and benefit from a hips session. So whether you're really active and your tightness there is through exercise and strengthening, or whether you haven't done that but you sit a lot, you drive a lot, there's not many people who don't need a bit of work on their hips. Let go of any hold, any tension. Final couple of breaths. And then you can lift out of that, unravel the legs, just lean back on your hands, take the feet about hip width apart, maybe a little bit wider, and so you can just sway the knees side to side. This doesn't have to be fast, it doesn't have to be with your breath, just that you can stretch through the outer hip, alternate between that internal and external rotation. We're just going to finish today. We're not going to take Shavasana as such. We're going to finish with a Cobbler Pose. So we will be dropping forwards. We can close the eyes. We can be there for a few minutes. But we will still use the time to work on the hips. So if you need to elevate your hips a little bit, feel free. Draw the feet in, soles together. Have a little play. The closer in they come, you will feel in a different part to if they are further away from the body as you tip forward. So have a little play for where works for you. And then once you're there, nice big inhale, lift and lengthen through the spine. Draw yourself forward with length to begin with. And then allow the body to drop. And if you can bring elbows over the sort of shins to draw you forward a little, then do. If you're just leaning forward into it, that's fine. You're allowing the spine to round, the head to drop, but the main focus here is into our hips, into the groin. So as long as you have sensation there, it doesn't matter too much where the head or the body drops to. Let the legs be as heavy as you can. Feel like the knees are dropping out and down. That might create more opening or sensation into the outer hip. You're rooting down into the sit bones. You're drawing the body or the crown of the head slightly forward. And your breath can be deep here. You're inhaling and expanding into the belly, into the back of the body, into the hips. And just keep following the path of the breath. Take one more minute here. Make these final breaths really big, really expansive. And then nice and slowly lift yourself back up. As you arrive at the top, just draw the knees back in together. Just hug the body forward, rest down on the thighs, drop head towards the knees. Probably lots of little quivery sensations going on through the legs. From there, just find an easy seat, crossing the legs. Resting hands on the knees, sitting nice and tall, closing the eyes. Final few breaths here just to complete your practice, taking time to check in with yourself. All right, we'll close our practice there. Sweep the arms up above the head. Final big breath in. Breathe out as palms come to touch. We take thumbs to the forehead for kind thoughts, to the lips for kind words, and to the heart for kind actions. Well done. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. Well done.